Order by is one of the most used, or should I say abused, clauses in SQL. It feels harmless, convenient, almost innocent, but behind the scenes, it can be absolutely devastating to your database performance. Order by is the second to last clause executed in a SQL select statement. It receives a dataset that contains all rows and all expressions from the select clause and sorts them based on the sorting expressions. There's much confusion about order by's handling of nulls, tied rows for which the sorting values are equal, or how it relates to views, subqueries, and other table expressions. But that's a topic for another day. Today, we're focusing on the real problem, the performance cost of sorting, and what it does to your database servers. Obviously, sorting is important. Humans are very good at scanning order data visually. Sorted results make it easy to find what we're looking for without reading every single row. But sorting is expensive. Relational database systems rely on indexes, hash match, bitmaps, and other internal mechanisms to support sorting. All of that work has a cost, and often a very high one, and that cost heavily influences the query's optimizer's decisions. And here's where it gets worse. Sorting isn't just expensive on its own. It also forces the optimizer to make compromises elsewhere. Often, the query optimizer will sacrifice performance optimizations of other data I/O operations to enable more efficient sorting. For example, a plan that uses ordered scans may be chosen even if the results will be slower in data access overall. A sorted index scan might be selected over a more efficient physical scan. An index that satisfied order by can be used even if it requires expensive lookups to retrieve non-covered columns. In other words, order by doesn't just add cost, it distorts the entire execution plan. And on top of that, the optimizer itself now has to evaluate far more complex execution trees. Sometimes, the cost of finding the optimal plan becomes so high that the optimizer just settles for a suboptimal good enough one. Add selectivity estimation errors, which are pretty common, and now you have a perfect recipe for bad decisions that affect every part of the query, not just the order by. And now for the real multiplier. Most database servers as a single source of truth. Thousands, sometimes millions of queries flow through the same server concurrently. That database server is already the most constrained and bottlenecked part of the application stack. So even a small cost increase per query becomes catastrophic when multiplied across thousands of concurrent order by operations. CPU usage rises, memory pressure increases, I/O grows, locks and isolation resources are held for longer, and suddenly your system hits a tipping point. Now, here's the uncomfortable part. Do we actually need order by in the database at all? From a relational perspective, absolutely not. The relational model deals exclusively with sets, and sets, by definition, have no order. Data is a collection of facts about reality, not a presentation format. Order by exists purely to make data easier for humans to consume. Yes, there are exceptions, like paging with offsets, and we'll get to that. But in principle, ordering is a presentation concern, not a data concern. The SQL standard introduced order by to make life easier for developers. It allowed result sets to be transformed into cursors and enabled presentation logic to be handled by the data tier. Unfortunately, that convenience came with an enormous and often invisible cost. Modern application architectures are tiered. Most commonly, we use 3 tiers: presentation tier, business logic tier, and the data tier. Sorting belongs in the presentation tier. You would never expect SQL to deal with your fonts, colors, the layout, or typography. So why do you just assume that sorting belongs in the database? Today, presentation is handled typically by web servers or at the client-side code, both of which are extremely good at sorting data, and they are far less constrained than your database servers. Now, I totally get the temptation of this convenience. You're already writing the query, so adding order by just feels easy. It works. But most developers have no idea what they're paying for that convenience. By moving sorting responsibilities out of the database and into the web tier or the client tier, the benefits can be huge. For every database server, there are typically many web servers and many more client browsers. Those resources are often underutilized while the database server is constantly under pressure. I've helped applications achieve performance improvements of 2 orders of magnitude simply by removing order by from their SQL queries and implementing sorting in the correct application tier. That gain alone often justifies the entire, yet significant, development effort many times over. Now, should order by be eliminated from SQL entirely? Well, it's useful for ad hoc analysis, and in some cases, paging with limit or offset can be more efficient than shipping huge result sets to another tier. But those cases are rare. They represent maybe 1% of the real-world usage, while the other 99% are order by clauses that were added by habit, convenience, misunderstanding, or all of the above. Even those edge cases, you should always measure carefully. Compare the true cost of paging in the database versus sorting your data elsewhere. If database-side ordering makes sense, by all means, use it. I don't expect order by to disappear, but it should be the exception, not the default practice. I hope this makes you think twice next time you reflexively add order by to every query. Thank you for your time, and feel free to leave a comment. I'd love to hear your experiences, whether they align with mine or not. And, as always, have yourself a great day.